Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the Texas Motor Speedway. Second time we visit this mile-and-a-half racetrack for the MSRA Reaper Speed Lab Truck Series. But tonight, it's plunk in the middle of the playoffs as 7 drivers still vying for those final 4 positions to battle for the championship when we get to Nashville Super Speedway. I'm Seth Cole, being joined by Matthew Rodriguez, and Matt was observing these guys in practice, saw them racing double wide. That's encouraging. Plus, a lot of these guys have notes from when they ran this track earlier on this season. Are we looking at some of the drivers that did well early on this year to be the ones at the front, or some of these other names that we've started to see pop in last month or so at Kansas, last week at Bristol Dirt, that have seemed to be able to be mainstays at the front of the field as well?
Obviously, you can make arguments for both. Love it or hate it, this is New Texas, and it does bring it with its own challenges. I'm partially in the kind of the corner of the guys who raced this track previously earlier in the season, having that knowledge, having that data where they can go and say, hey, we need to make this adjustment, or hey, the track's going to do this later on. But you also got to think about some of the new guys where, hey, they have almost no stake in this. They can throw a wrench into this and immediately just fly up to the front of the pack and just hit you with something you didn't expect.
This would have been the start to the round of 8 for the playoffs, but due to the fact that we had only 7 playoff contenders, as mentioned, the 6 races that would have been the round of 12 and the round of 8, they ended up becoming 6 races for drivers to try and make the final 4. And with that being said, our focus here tonight is going to really revolve around 3 drivers, and I think it's going to be that way for tonight and the next 2 races leading up to the season finale. That's going to be right around that cut line. Chuck Waldrop, right now above the cut line, 34 points over Braxton DeWeese, and then 38 points over Robert Shin. It kind of seems like it's going to be those drivers that will be battling for that final playoff position, as Christopher Hill, Boyd Hogan, they've got 29 and 22 points respectively over the cut line, and Andrew Navarro, who's going to be leading us to green here today, the only driver that has a win as a playoff driver this season. That was, of course, at the beginning of the playoffs at Darlington.
And again, I'm not counting Braxton DeWeese or Robert Shin out just yet, but obviously Robert Shin's not an appearance tonight, so that's definitely going to hurt his chances. But Braxton DeWeese still trying to fight his way in.
Take a look at the starting lineup for tonight. You'll see Christopher Pfeffer in the 66, rolling off from the 3rd position. Mentioned the fact that these drivers, most of them were here back at the beginning of the season. I believe it was race 6 or 7, and Pfeffer took the checkered flag there, so might be a driver you might put towards the forefront as a favorite to double down here in the Lone Star State, but you've also got other drivers that have recently been to victory lane, including 9th place starting Andrew Farnance. He, of course, went coast to coast, pole to win, dominated the Bristol Dirt race a couple of weeks ago.
Again, a lot of these guys, hey, you know, earlier in the season, if they've raced, you know what they have, but you don't know what have, like some of these guys do have for that's new to the series.
Green flag in the air as these drivers will be going 147 circuits around this Texas Motor Speedway. We do have the guaranteed stage caution. It's going to be somewhere in the region of lap 43. But one thing I got to think with these drivers that when I cast my memory back to Kansas, at least try to make it to the stage and set yourself up strategy-wise for the end of this race, because there's a lot of drivers in that race that didn't even make it past turn 4 on the first lap. Looks like everybody's going to make it to the start-finish line here at Texas to complete lap number 1.
Well, we definitely were trying to make a kind of a grand entrance. They're going about 3 wide in turn 2 and 3. It's kind of shocking. I still see a lot of 3 wide action back around 7th, 8th place.
88 of Andrew Farnance, last week's winner, or last timeout's win, I should say, 2 weeks ago at Bristol Dirt, in the middle of that 3-wide situation. That's the 26 of Tyler Gary on the inside, and Wesley Jeanette in the 74 on the top side. Agno Phillip was in the middle of that 3-wide, has now been able to scamper away from it, as they're still kind of wadded up there around the 8th, 9th position on back. Got a group of, 7, 8 trucks all wadded up right now.
Yeah, right now I haven't really seen the middle to high line come in. I've seen the middle line hold its own, but the top line just seems like it can't get that large run off the corner, which is really hurting it.
6 of Jonathan Delaney there in the tire tracks of the 88. Now he'll get clear. We get single file back at least around the top 10. Matt Forcappa gonna move into the 11th spot. Wesley Jeanette gonna fall back to 12th. Agno Phillip on the move. He's gonna take the inside on the 36 of Brendan John Kohler.
Kohler is trying to kind of pinch down, keep a little bit of an advantage, get a little bit of side draft to drive right by him. But I've noticed that top three have really started to drive away.
We could add that fourth place driver as well, Dalton Collins, to the list that are starting to break away here. And if they continue to run single file and fifth place on back continue to run side by side, that's probably going to lose them some ground. So that top four, then they can just kind of go into ride mode, wait until that stage caution, pick up some valuable stage points, of course, for Andrew Navarro and Boyd Hogan. They're trying to see if they can lock themselves into the final four before we even get to that final elimination race, which, of course, prior to Nashville Super Speedway is going to be that paperclip short track of Martinsville. And, I mean, there probably would be no better feeling than knowing, that you are securely locked into the final four when you're going into a short track.
Realistically, yes. I mean, you don't want to be on the outside looking in on what most people call the action track. I mean, you don't want to be in that scenario where you're that guy who kind of gets bumped out, and hey, you're fighting for your life there, effectively.
Starting to see that second groove come in here already. Kohler jumped to the right rear quarter panel of Dalton Collins. He's going to complete the pass here through 3 and 4. So a little surprised we didn't see many drivers migrate up there outside of those that kind of got freight trained, but apparently there is grip early on to be able to utilize that second lane and move your way to the front. 36 exposing that right now.
I'm a bit curious. As the run goes on, obviously tire wear will start to set in, but I'm curious as tire wear will start to set in, if drivers will start to migrate more up the track, or will keep to that bottom lane, and who's burning off their tires now versus who can save them better.
But you can see right there, Christopher Pepper a little out of shape in between Andrew Navarro and Boyd Hogan as we're on board with the 36 of Kohler. You bring up tires. I mean, Texas Motor Speedway, very well known to be abrasive on the Goodyears. These drivers here tonight, outside of the set that they started on, only have 3 additional sets waiting for them on pit road. The question's going to be, will they need all 3 sets before the conclusion of this race?
Realistically, I could potentially see kind of an optional strategy of sort of potentially taking right side tires only on a pit stop. And I could imagine if long as you don't do a long run, it could potentially work. And again, if you're trying to late race fuel strategy move, it could potentially work, but I don't really expect that for long-term gains.
Wadded up again. Kyle Myers just got around Tyler Gary. That would have been for 7th. Andrew Farnaz now to the inside of the 26, and there you see the 69, we'll call it a red, orange, and blue. The inside for the 9th position here. The 26 getting freight trained. And is this a case here for the 26 that he used up his stuff a little bit too early, or did he just get caught out in terms of momentum? Because I also noticed in practice, if you end up having to lift off the throttle coming off of 2 or 4, there's going to be a half dozen guys behind you that are still going to be in the throttle, and they're going to be more than happy to capitalize on your misfortune.
Realistically, I think it was just about a misfortune. I mean, he got off that bottom lane, got shoved up to that middle lane, and that bottom lane right now is just so fast and has so much grip. And right now, I'm kind of curious as we continue to go on if that bottom lane is going to still remain as strong as it is right now.
Christopher Pfeffer under fire now from Kohler, who just moments ago got around Boyd Hogan. At 36 is laying down some of the best lap times here in the early going. Started this race back from the 11th position, already up to 3rd and looking to break into the top 2. So if you're looking for someone with long run speed here, if it comes down to that near the end of this race, you probably have to look in the direction of that 36.
I wouldn't count out that 42, though. Andrew Navarro's been fast from the drop of the green flag. Looks like he's gaining a little bit of speed. Honestly, a little bit of time on second. I think he could be driving away here.
I saw that truck down on the apron through 1 and 2. That's Christopher Hill, who I believe has just now come off of pit road, missed the start of this race, so he is going to be 11 laps down when he eventually comes around to complete his first lap of the night. And remember, Christopher Hill is a playoff contender, 29 points above the cut line. One thing that we haven't seen in the recent races, we had a decent field last week, but we've been seeing, the somewhat smaller field, so it's been easier for playoff drivers to not lose as many points, not have there be nearly as big of a point swing. But the fact that we have 20 trucks in the field here tonight, big opportunity for drivers to be able to gain a lot of points to move above that cut line in the playoffs, but subsequently on the flip side, drivers that were in a bit of a comfort zone above the cut line could find themselves, if not below, down in the vicinity by the time we get to Homestead next week.
Yeah, realistically, the guy who really needs to capitalize on this huge opportunity has to be Braxton DeWeese. Right now, he is on the outside looking in, about 40 points difference, if my math is correct. I could be wrong on that. About 40 points difference. He really needs to go up there and compete. Needs to get up there, lead laps, win stages, or just get stage points. And just be in the conversation where, hey, that next week you're not trying to force everything onto that race. That's it. Give yourself a little bit of breathing room so you're not forcing yourself into an impossible situation.
Yeah, 34 points difference between himself and Chuck Waldrop. Right now, DeWeese is running higher on the track than the 7. Waldrop right now back in 19th. DeWeese currently in the 14th position. One thing that's a bit of a detriment to Braxton DeWeese right now is the fact he's not up inside the top 10. Those stage points could be very helpful in him trying to get back up there above that playoff cut line. Still plenty of time to be able to get up here inside the top 10 as we're about to complete lap 15, and we again aren't expecting that caution to come out until somewhere around lap 43, but obviously you want to try and get every point you possibly can with the situation DeWeese is in. True, you could kind of spread it out between now, Homestead, and Martinsville, but if you can get a big chunk of points here tonight, I think you got to go for it.
Absolutely. As I watched about a lap ago, Andrew Farnes kind of drove by the 85 of Dalton Collins. Collins honestly let him by and pulled a crossover, and he's been able to stay even with him on the bottom, but it kind of looks like whatever Andrew Farnes has tonight, he's able to run both bottom and mid and not lose that much time. So obviously I think that setup is a little bit more geared for long runs.
And it's interesting you bring that up because it looks like there's been at least 2 instances up here inside of the top 6 of give and take, and the driver that gives is getting the long run reward, if you will. Mentioned that Kohler had gotten around Boyd Hogan. I believe Hogan kind of let him go when Kohler was trying to charge to the front. He has since passed him back, and to your point there, when Farnes put the move on Collins kind of let him go, and now he's taken advantage and gone back to the 5th position. So looks like there's some mind games going on here as far as drivers using up their tires, preserving their tires, trying to see what they've got for a long run truck in traffic.
I said, it's a smart move. Why should I burn up my stuff? Go on right on by me. Burn up your stuff. I'll pass it in about 5 laps.
Kyle Myers now to the inside of Andrew Farnes. That'll be for 6. That he will barely clear. They're going into turn 1. Like from that camera angle, there might have been a tiny little bit of contact between those two.
Yeah, that's really what you don't want early on to this race. We are 19 laps into 147 race, and that's why you're seeing so much give and take up front where, that's it. These guys know it's a long race. You have to be there at the end to have a shot. I think this might come down to fuel strategy if we kind of luck out enough.
Andrew Navarro, 3-time winner this season, ended up picking up the victory in the regular season finale that all but secured himself a spot in the playoffs back at Lucas Oil Raceway Park, and then, as mentioned, started the playoffs with a victory at Darlington. It's kind of interesting here, too, with the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series. They seem to have a flair for liking the short tracks to be the place where it's all on the line. You had Lucas Oil for the regular season finale, and then Martinsville in a few weeks' time is where we're going to be determining the Final Four.
I mean, you got to think, a lot of people really kind of think that Martinsville is a lot of a driver's track, and honestly, I won't argue. That's where really equipment doesn't really come to matter. However, thankfully on the iRacing service, equipment doesn't really matter, but your setup does. And Martinsville is a track that really challenges your setup knowledge and how risky you're willing to be.
Christopher Pfeffer has mentioned the first time these drivers were here this season at Texas Motor Speedway took the checkered flag. Andrew Navarro was not in that race, but the rest of the drivers that finished up inside of the top 5 that are in the field here tonight, only one of them, that was Braxton DeWeese, who ended up finishing in 3rd place. Also kind of bears mentioning that, we see Kohler.
Oh, 3 wide in the wall, Christopher Hill.
Maybe trying to get out of the way of the lead lap drivers, as mentioned, several laps down and now slow, making his way through turn 3. He's going to jump down to the apron. That truck might be headed for pit road.
I honestly think that may have just been a bad send. He has fresher tires than the rest of his field. As the rest of the field was kind of slowing down, he took the opportunity on that right side lane, ended up kind of driving outside the outside wall. It looks like Race Control actually has noted that incident just between the 99. I said, I don't really think it's going to cause anything, but just keep that in mind.
And Christopher Hill, as mentioned, came into this race as the playoffs points leader. 29 points above the cut line. He's going to lose a few more laps here as he came down to the attention of his crew. They'll likely go around to the right side, do a little bit of TLC to that number 99 truck, as Andrew Navarro brings us more than halfway now through this first stage.
We'll say
Almost about to
Andrew
complete lap
Farnaz
25.
has been aggressively trying that middle lane, trying to get it to work. And what I've noticed is it seems like it works when he has a truck behind him as he, oh man, loses the back end just a little bit. Like I said, it does not look comfortable. I wonder if he kind of burnt out that right rear a little bit.
And that's what we're going to start to see here the longer the run goes on, right? The driver is fighting for that rear grip on corner exit. Now, I know that in the NASCAR Cup race when they were at Texas this past weekend, they had to deal with that tunnel bump over in 3 and 4. Do you feel that here on iRacing? Is that something that drivers have to deal with as well?
You do, and it really unsettles the car. It just kind of throws you out of your rhythm. Every driver has marks on the track where they try to hit every lap, and generally 9 times out of 10 we're going to hit that mark, but on that 10th time we hit that bump and that tunnel turn, it will shoot us up the track, it'll throw us off our lane, it'll just make the car feel a little bit weird, and that's just fractions of a second, and unfortunately those fractions of a second really add up, and it just throws you off the rhythm.
Navarro starting to open up some daylight between himself and what could be a brewing battle for the second position. Christopher Pfeffer in the 66, remember, not a playoff driver. Boyd Hogan in the 96 is, so he would maybe want that extra point there, that extra stage point, to be able to keep that cushion between himself and the cut line. We'll see if he gets to the back bumper of the 66, if Pfeffer just says go on by, or if he's going to battle him hard for it here.
See, I almost think it's like a kind of a lawyer in this case where no lawyer's ever going to tell you you're going to have too much leverage. I mean, that's what Boyd Hogan wants. He wants leverage to make sure he's inside this playoff cutoff.
Kohler is now fallen off from the top 3, and he's back here in the clutches of Dalton Collins, as well as Kyle Myers.
Woo, Matt. For Kappa, actually kind of lost it there in turn 3. I'm noticing a lot of these drivers are really aggressively kind of sliding the back end. Now that's good. Obviously, you want to slide the back end more than you want to kind of plow with the front end. That means your car's turning, but that means your car's turning just a little bit too well. And you kind of want to ride that line of, hey, the car is able to turn through the corner, / hey, I want to make sure I'm able to keep it all 4 tires having grip through the corner.
Got some problems here for Brendan Kohler in the 36. Looks like he may have had a hardware failure there. His truck disappeared for a brief moment. He brought it down to the apron to avoid reappearing in front of somebody else, and looks like bringing it to the garage area. That's a tough break there. Don't know exactly what the details are on the 36, but he was running at the time in the 4th position.
Yeah, it didn't look that bad. It really just looked like he kind of blinked out in the back straightaway and just ended up pulling it down. Obviously, that's kind of a hard decision to make as a racer of saying, okay, hey, I'm running rel, but right now I need to kind of pull off. I think that was more of a him move. He just didn't want to risk anyone's chances here, so ended up just pulling off, be safe.
And while that was going on, we did indeed have the exchange for second. Looked like it was a mutual agreement there. 96 getting around the 66, so Boyd Hogan now up to the 2nd spot. I know Phillip there in the 94. If we're looking for somebody that's made a good charge to the front, he and Tyler Gary both up 7 positions from where they started in 13th and 14th, now running in 6th and 7th. Now, obviously, in this first stage, a lot of opportunity for drivers to do some experimenting, force the issue, see just on how razor's edge they can get with these trucks. You don't want to throw the race away here in the early going, but you certainly want to know what your truck's going to be able to do on the long run, because we've seen in the past, 2-3 months here at Speedways, we've ended up having almost complete green flag races outside of the stage cautions, so it almost seems like you have to get yourself in the mentality of a long run setup.
That's the idea where, obviously, short run setups are great if you're anticipating a lot of cautions, but Texas is one of those tracks where I don't expect a lot of cautions, at least not early on in the race. Maybe later on in the race I'd see more chances of it, but I think Texas is going to be more of a strategy race in my mind, so I'm planning for those long rounds, I'm planning for those green flag pit stops. That's what I've got in mind.
Braxton DeWeese may have been preserving his tires, which is why we didn't see him up inside the top 10. Ooh, gets a little loose there as he's to the inside of Matt Forcappa. This would be for the 12th position. Remember, Braxton trying to get up into the top 10 here in these next 10 laps to be able to snag a stage point or 2.
Realistically, he is the biggest wild card here. Him going out and having a top 5 run,
Wow.
that will unsettle the entire playoff really structure here. Because at the moment, if you look at the playoff standings, there's realistically one guy who's going to be the odd man out here, and you don't want to be that one man out.
That back end was slipping out of turn 2. We're going to ride on board here with Braxton DeWeese. Watch the hand motion here, especially when they get to the exit of the second corner. It's pretty steady here with the hands. Let's see if he has to counter steer it coming off the second
Hear that
corner.
throttle. This is where you kind of drive it more like a dirt car than an actual kind of stock car. You see him go off into the corner. He starts turning down. You hear him lift a little bit, and then he gets back on it, and you see the back end. Look at the car in front. Matt's car really starts wobbling in the end. You're using the throttle to turn the car through the corner. That's how a lot of these setups are tuned up. That's great for turning the car, but it's really bad on a long run because you really are burning through that right rear, just getting the car to turn.
Nice run there out of turn 2. He'll get to the back bumper of Kappa for that 12th position. Catching him is one thing, passing him another. He'll drive it to the inside here through 3 and 4. Let's see if he can complete the pass.
And this is where your car gets so unsettled, because when you have that setup where the back end likes to come out and you're driving it with the back end, driving side by side on worn tires can be a nightmare because, hey, you have to get back on the gas to make the car turn. But when you get back on the gas, we start wobbling up the track like that. Braxton DeWeese is, like I said, he's kind of fighting that, and you have the air being taken off you by the car up top.
Had a couple of battles, a couple of positions get exchanged just moments ago up inside of the top 10. Kyle Myers got around Dalton Collins for 4th, and Parker White just made his way around Agno Phillip for the 6th position as we continue to watch this side-by-side battle for the 12th spot. The bad news for Braxton DeWeese, though, is the laps are winding down here in the first stage. He's not yet oh, gosh, for Kappa. I think he went where no truck has gone yet today. That's the highest I've seen anybody go up there in turn 1.
I think he may have been trying to give him a little bit of room, but I think he also may have missed his turn-in point and just said, hey, it's not worth it right now. I'll get him back next corner.
I hate to break this to him, but I don't think however much rubber you put up there, nobody's going to try that lane later on in the race.
You never know. Maybe you can put enough rubber up there. Oh, man, I don't. That's it, guys. This is still at 38 of 147. I don't know if I'd really be pushing the issue right now.
No, I'm not sure I would either because, I mean.
But also, you got to remember, kind of think of this where if I'm Braxton DeWeese, I've got a lot more to lose in this scenario. You kind of have to, this is risk management. If anyone watches our other series, Dark Horse IndyCar series, or racing series, we had an incident like that where the leader led every lap, last 10 laps, really didn't need to push it, decided to push it, ended up wrecking himself, costing himself championship points and a race win. That's kind of what I'm seeing here where, I mean, hey, you're not really within striking distance getting the top 10 from his stage. So if you're not within striking distance, get top 10 of his stage, learn what you can now and kind of take it for later on so you have that knowledge. Just don't wreck the car.
You bring up that race, and I'll do you one better. In that series, they had a faster pair, and that race leader was eventually able to fight his way back up to 6th. There's no faster pairs in this series. You totaled the truck, your day's pretty much done. And
it's realistically the mentality of, listen, we got to make sure that we bring it home because the only way that we can score points is if we're there for points. And as hard as it is to tell a racer, hey, you can't go all out right now. You need to save the truck. It's realistically, we're racing for the bigger picture here. We're racing to get in. We can't get in if we're not there.
Looking at the lap times here, Matt, and Boyd Hogan is starting to reel Andrew Navarro in. He's a tick quicker these last 3 or 4 laps. Now, granted, he's only got about roughly 2.5 laps to be able to get around Andrew Navarro, but he's eyeing that stage point, that stage win, and that playoff point.
And be aware, pit entry is closed. Pit lane is closed, so a lot of these drivers making their final sprint trying to get this stage point.
Andrew Navarro going to complete lap 41, so theoretically 2 to go here in the stage. He said, though, it's around lap 43. That's not official. We may throw it a lap earlier. They may throw it a lap later. We've seen that during the course of this season. So for Boyd Hogan, you can't let your foot off the accelerator. You got to keep fighting here because you never know what's going to happen with the 42.
This battle for 10th is kind of heating up a little bit. I'm watching Andrew Farnaz still trying to make that bottom line work, but man, David Santini set it there on the bottom. He's making it stick.
Santini, who's making, I believe it's his third start of the
Oh!
season. Farnaz going to get the wall there in the 88. He's going to get that 10th position. Will Santini as Navarro crossed the line to start lap 43. Let's see if the caution comes out now. Whoa, Navarro! All sorts of loose there out of turn 2. Boyd Hogan going to close the gap up even more.
That's what we're talking about. Just a little wiggle that's all it needs. But I also took a look at the right side of Andrew Farnaz's truck. Looks like the right rear has a little bit of damage. Probably going to tighten up the car a little bit. I don't think it's going to loosen it up more. He may have a little bit more joy in that right now. And caution's out.
There's your stage caution. So Andrew Navarro going to pick up the stage victory after starting on the pole position. It's going to be 10 playoff points headed his way, 9 for Boyd Hogan. And I believe they were the only two, yes they were, the only two of our playoff drivers in the field that are going to get stage points.
Like I said, that's huge for them. That is a huge shot for Braxton DeWeese. Where, hey, you're in P12, that's great, but you need to be inside the top 10 to really take advantage of that. So, again, just kind of rally back, finish strong.
The rest of our playoff drivers, Braxton DeWeese is going to be 12th. Chuck Waldrop in 17th. So those two will look to get high race finish points in the upcoming second and final stage. Just a little bit of housekeeping for the drivers that had issues during that run. Brendan John Kohler is officially out of the race. Looks like right now going to be credited for 19th. Christopher Hill still sits on pit road after we saw him get into the wall off of turn 4 onto the front straightaway. He's rounding out 33 laps down. We'll see if he elects to come back out in the second stage and see if he can pick up that 19th spot from Kohler. As pit road is open, Andrew Navarro going to lead them down, and I think it's pretty safe to say 4 tires all around for these guys.
Yeah, right now, I mean, to be honest, this is your kind of fun time where if you have the, I wouldn't want to say the confidence. If you have the confidence in your car right now, you could try to take 2 and use that information for later on, but realistically, the safe options for take 4, look at your wear. Oh, Andrew Navarro, he looks like he drove past his pit stall just a little bit, still ended up getting service.
Effer actually overshot his box there as well. He was halfway into Boyd Hogan's stall.
Just watching this race off pit road, doesn't look like anyone's taken 2. It's going to be
Drag race
Navarro.
there for like 4th or 5th. It was between White, Collins, and Phillip, but to your point, Andrew Navarro first in, first off. Boyd Hogan comes out second. Kyle Myers, Parker White, and Dalton Collins. It's going to be the top 5 when we go back green. So Andrew Navarro is looking for his 4th win of the season. He's going to be the one to lead us back to green after dominating stage 1. Picks up the stage victory, and he will prepare to get us ready for stage 2 in just a few moments. We're going to step aside for a quick break, and you guys will see them here under pacing. We'll be back for the green flag as we go FRN side by side. We welcome you back here to Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the MSRA Reaper Speedlab Truck Series here tonight at Texas. You saw it while we were away during that race break. Andrew Navarro, who dominated this first stage, back down pit road. He's going to be scheduled to roll off 17th on this restart.
That's an interesting choice, but could just be trying to get the full money's worth out of his fuel mileage. So, hey, more power.
Might also be trying to see what his truck will do back in traffic. Had that clean air for those first 43 laps. So we'll see Boyd Hogan lead us back to green. Boy, things got
that inside line stacked up.
They did. I think both lanes.
Oh, and that was
and there's a car up and over.
Ooh.
That was the 4 of Clement that got up on at least 2 wheels, maybe just 1 wheel there. Caution coming out the first time tonight for Cause.
I'm going to tell you, the guy who was most scared on all of that had to be Andrew Navarro. Had to be rethinking the previous choices he made on that last pit stop. But it looks like a really unfortunate incident with Wesley Jeanette. It looks like just missed a shift. That car just stopped out of nowhere.
Here's a look at it again. That's for Kappa behind him. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that's what happened. Oh, wow. Was that Chuck Waldrop that was just behind Clement when he went up and over? I think it was. So you had quite a few of your playoff contenders right there in the vicinity. Navarro, you also had Braxton DeWeese in that area. So that could have been
Waldrop
really
probably
bad
has a really good probably has a really good onboard for this.
Yeah, I think we're gonna...
I feel for Richard Clement, though. Out of nowhere, just tagged in the right rear and just sent on around, almost flipped over.
This is the onboard with Waldrop. Wow, look at the hands there. Luis, actually, Luis might have actually gotten some damage. Just saw there with that onboard. He clipped the infield grass, and he was headed for the inside safer barrier. Don't know if he made contact or not. We'll go on board with the 8.
Looks like he was trying to avoid the accident. He's got those left sides right on the grass. Ended up spinning the car almost to the left. He did a good job locking it down, but he kind of pounded that right or left front. So I'm kind of worried about later in the race of any tire wear or realistically any damage.
Yeah, and one wouldn't necessarily think it as much here at a track like Texas, but aerodynamics do count with the long back straightaway, especially to be able to get a run and set up somebody for a pass over into turn 3.
It's not only that, it's really a lot of handling too. I mean, handling means so much in the front of the car.
Here's another look at the contact with Braxton DeWeese. Saw the onboard, and this will give you an idea of just, how much of a hit he took there with that left front. Braxton had stayed out of trouble during the first stage, didn't pick up any stage points, and now finds himself with damage. Looks like Richard Clement is on pit lane, obviously, to get damage repaired. Wesley Jeanette is just now making his way down pit road, as is Braxton DeWeese. 20 car Parker White down there on the apron, maybe saving some fuel. So you mentioned this before we even took the stage caution about how we could end up having this race be a fuel strategy type race. Well, with Navarro coming to pit lane at 1 to green, giving up the race lead, Parker White down there on the apron, obviously saving fuel. Obviously, these drivers have the same mentality.
Absolutely. I looked at the left front of Braxton DeWeese still leaving pit road. I think there's a lot more damage on that car than really what he has at the moment. I don't think he's repaired all the damage thus far, just trying to stay on the lead lap. I think it's going to be really just trying to limp that car back home, trying to get the best finish possible.
There's some right side damage there on the 95 of Evan Longacre. We also see Andrew Farnez on pit road for Kappa, Chuck Waldrop also in the 7. A few of these drivers might just be topping off the fuel tank, but there is visible damage on the right side of that 95. Not sure where that would have come from.
Actually, that happened about the last lap of the last stage. Ended up just sending it a little bit too much out of 2 and just brushing the wall just barely. No really incident, no wreck, just kind of misjudgment.
Is it more visual, or does something like that, do you feel the effects of that kind of damage, just a brush to the outside safer barrier the longer the run goes on?
So the side damage you don't feel as much, but I'd be more concerned about the right front. I'm noticing the right front nose, right front fender's a little bit crinkled. Same thing with the hood is a little bit crinkled. I'd be wondering about longer runs about the car maybe being a little bit tighter. which could be a good thing depending on how your setup is. But obviously, damage on the car is not what you want at this track.
Now, it's incredible to say, but a bit of a winless streak for the driver of the 96 Boyd Hogan, 7-time winner, has yet to win during the playoffs. We saw him
Not used to saying
kind of,
that.
yeah, exactly. We saw him hunting down Andrew Navarro near the end of that stage, came up just a little bit short. We'll have to see now in clean air what he's going to be able to do in the second stage. Obviously, the 42 of Navarro. We'll have to see if he can make his way up there to the front. Now, the one thing that I would question as far as Andrew Navarro is, let's say this doesn't turn into a fuel strategy race, and you've already kind of committed yourself to that strategy. We talked of just how abrasive this track is on the tires, and we know Navarro's got a fast truck. No doubt he can make his way back up here into the top 5, but if he's able to get up to Boyd Hogan, how much does he have for grip? How much does he have as far as what those tires will allow him as far as mobility to try and set up or even make a pass on Boyd Hogan, having to pass all of those trucks? Is now Boyd's going to pull down to the apron there. I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, I'm honestly going to bring a little bit of an example like Andrew Farnaz into this. We saw Farnaz start P9 and he worked his way up to almost about P5. But after that, he really started to fall of how much he was working those tires. I'm a little bit concerned for the longer run with Andrew Navarro, but it's going to kind of be wait and see how good your setup is, but also just, I think, just taking the runs here and there, and with them knowing more about the car now and being able to make just a few adjustments on pit road, they may be better set up for this longer run.
These first 2 rows are going to be a lot of fun to watch. Hogan, Myers, Gary, and White, because they were really the 4 drivers I noticed near the end of that run, at the end of the first stage, that were picking up ground and picking up positions. So they've obviously got very good long-run setups. As we're back under green, second restart of the night. Boyd Hogan going to lead them into turn 1. Much cleaner restart that time. Everybody not really accordioning up like they were before. And Tyler Gary chopping the nose off Agno Phillip to get to the inside of Kyle Myers.
And Myers is the odd man out on that outside line, just kind of dropping now. I think it's almost like Martinsville in a way, where a lot of these drivers on newer tires and early on the runs really aiming for that bottom line just to be really competitive. Kyle Myers still up the track trying to look for an opening.
Texas probably attract these drivers to saying, give us a choose cone. See everyone line up on the inside line. There'd be no outside line.
Yeah, you always got to take a risk.
Got pretty similarly colored cars up here, or trucks I should say, in the top 3. Red, white, and black represented on the 96, 20, and 26. You know, another thing that we have to talk about here too, with it being the playoffs, is you've got different drivers with different agendas. Boyd Hogan, he's obviously out there not only trying to find victory lane after a bit of a winless streak for him, but also trying to rack up those points to have that cushion above the cut line. Look at Parker White, Tyler Gary, they're just out trophy hunting, so they're going to be racing this 96 very aggressively if they're able to get to his inside.
Just look at how far but 81 fell, though. Started P2, ended up shuffling back in line at P6. That is huge for that outside line. I would not want to be stuck up there on a late race restart.
So would you maybe, near the end of this race, possibly kind of, you mentioned Martinsville, and I know that drivers kind of play these type of mind games as well, where they'll figure, all right, I need to come off pit road in an odd numbered position, so that way I have that inside line for the upcoming restart. If we are to get a late race caution, would drivers try and do something like that to make sure they don't get caught out like the 81 was?
If they have the ability, they will count cars. If it is something within their ability, they may just lift off a little bit. I've seen drivers slam the brakes to make sure they're in a certain position. 100% that is all you, but let's say just being aware of, hey, that 81, and I'm sure all these other teams around here, they've realized that, hey, that 81 started on the outside. He was fighting just to get back in line. He couldn't. That's something to take note of. I really want to be on that inside line on a late race restart.
We saw Richard Clement go up and over there on the front straightaway for our second caution of the day, and he has since brought his machine back to the garage area. He'll get credited, at least for the moment, for the 18th position. We've got 17 drivers still running, all on the lead lap. And it looks like that damage that you were talking about there for Braxton DeWeese, it is not helping him at all. He's already fallen quite a bit off the pace, about 13 seconds behind the leader. He's over 9 seconds behind the next driver for position, which would be the driver he's battling for that final playoff spot, Chuck Waldrop.
Yeah, notice Chuck Waldrop's kind of had an eventful night. Obviously saw the undercarriage of another car. That's not really what your goal is. I'm noticing a car that's really dropping back here at the moment. has to be the 69 of Matt Forcapa. Kind of just, or for Kappa, just kind of dropping to the field, not really, doesn't seem entirely comfortable with his car, to be honest.
Which is a little bit surprising because the driver that just made his way around him, Christopher Pepper, would be technically the lead truck of Wave 2. The drivers that most recently came to pit lane about 8-9 laps ago. For Kappa was also down pit road under the last caution, so you would think that he would actually be putting the pressure on drivers like Santini, Myers, and Delaney like Pfeffer is, but might be just maybe a period of adjustment, getting used to those new tires again, because I know the drivers, they can get so used to the slipping and sliding around of the old tires, and then they go out there with fresh Goodyears, and it's an entirely different sensation of how they have to approach the corners, and so maybe a period of readjustment for some of these guys.
Absolutely. I know you and I have done it before where, hey, we go on these long 50, 60 lap runs on these same tires. We get used to, hey, we're having to fight at every corner. We get back in the brand new tires and we're, hey, man, we can grip. And we just end up sending it just a little bit too hard, overcorrecting and losing the back end and easy caution. And it's embarrassing to do, but it happens to a lot of these drivers that just get so used to get so used to this rhythm, get so used to the kind of car sliding.
And if there's a place that you do not want to send it in too far, it's turn 1 here at Texas, because we kind of saw a case in point with the Ford Kappa near the end of stage 1, how he nearly was on a first-name basis with the outside safe barrier going up several grooves from the bottom.
Realistically, the good and bad thing about Texas is the good thing is there's a lot of lanes here. The bad news is there's not a lot of fast lanes here. So it's kind of pick your poison. Oh, and Braxton DeWeese, he ended up parking it.
I saw some smoke over there in turn 1, so I'm not certain if that might have been where he possibly parked his machine.
No, blew an engine.
Tough break there for Braxton DeWeese, who again, trying to reel in Chuck Waldrop for that final spot in the final 4 to advance to the championship battle at Nashville Super Speedway. Came into this race 34 points behind. And granted, Chuck Waldrop right now is only running one position ahead of DeWeese, with DeWeese out of the race. Now he's going to actually pick up a spot on Evan Longacre, but
terrible luck.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, even if you don't gain points on Waldrop, you certainly don't want to lose more points, because next week you go to Homestead Miami Speedway. You know, that's maybe a track that you can kind of control your own destiny, that 1.5 miles, but last thing you want to do is go into Martinsville in a must-win situation.
Yeah, and that's not really what you'd strive for. You don't want to set yourself up where it's a do or die. It's kind of one of those things where if you miss the championship, or if you lose a championship by 1 point, you start analyzing everywhere that you could have gained that 1 point. All those little mistakes of, hey, maybe if I didn't slip up here, maybe I didn't make a pit error here, maybe I just tried a little bit harder here, I could have easily won this thing. I mean, that is the accumulation of that same thing for that playoff spot. You want to give yourself the best opportunity, the best foot forward, where even if it's a bad day for you, even if it's a track that you don't like, you have an opportunity to be there at the end, saying, hey, I put my best foot forward, it's do or die, I'm at Martinsville, I got to finish X next place, and I got to make sure I stay ahead of so-and-so. But right now, yeah, for DeWeese, I don't like his odds.
And of course, the big thing for Braxton DeWeese as well that put him in the position he was in coming into tonight was the fact that 2 weeks ago at Kansas, he didn't make the start. So that was a lot of points that he lost out on to Chuck Waldrop.
And Christopher Pfeffer is all over the back bumper of Agno Phillip, and it kind of backed off there a little bit. But I noticed it's almost a three-wide battle with David Santini and Christopher Pfeffer. Pfeffer's kind of dropped off a little bit now. I think he's kind of letting those two kind of sort it out.
Well, it's a tough situation for Pfeffer, right? I mean, he's got about almost 8 to 10 lap fresher tires than these guys up ahead of him, so he can certainly carry a lot more speed through the center of the corner, maybe get back to the throttle a lot sooner, but he has to adapt to what the drivers on the older tires ahead of him are doing, especially when he's boxed in like this with the side-by-side battle between Phillip and Santini. So he wants to force the issue, but at the same time, he can't put himself in a compromised position.
Yeah, and to follow up with that a little bit more, you also can't sacrifice your strategy just because you want to go past the guy. I mean, it's all fun and games and you have that advantage, but you can quickly lose it if you really push it and kind of get yourself into trouble.
Pfeffer started from the 3rd position, ended up finishing inside of the top 5 in stage 1. Like many others, kind of playing the strategy when we had the stage caution come out and the follow-up caution just a couple of laps later. Some other drivers that are on the same strategy That's Christopher Pfeffer. You got the 88 of Andrew Farnes right there behind him. Also Dalton Collins in the 85, Matt Forcappa. The driver right now that got swallowed up by the fresh tires is the 6 of Jonathan Delaney. He's now back to the 9th position. He restarted up in, I believe it was 6th when we went back green. So we're starting to see a little bit of drivers on the fresher tires starting to eat away at the drivers on the older tires, but right now, at least in the early going of this run, it's looking like track position is key over the tire grip.
Yeah, I noticed David Santini kind of lost a little bit there, ended up dropping behind Agnell Phillip and Christopher Pfeffer, kind of trying, and this is one of the points that you don't want to be in as kind of a car on a maybe a less preferable strategy of, hey, you're not going to be outlasting this guy in front of you on fuel. You don't have maybe as fresh as tires of him. But you also got to remember, hey, I'm on my own strategy. I need to make my numbers work. So just because that guy on new tires passed you, don't try and match him. Keep running your own strategy, saying, okay, I've got my own plan. When it's time for me to come in, I'll pass him back.
Boyd Hogan continues to show the way here at Texas Motor Speedway. Parker White in the 20, keeping him honest. It's a freight train all the way back to around the 10th position of Dalton Collins as these drivers get themselves set up maybe for an upcoming round of green flag pit stops. Question is, when will it be? Oh, how about that block there down the back straightaway? Tyler Gary and Kyle Myers for the 3rd spot.
How often I'd throw that block. Obviously, if it's between friends, between teammates, that's I know my teammates would probably give me a little bit of room, but they'd probably also tell me, don't you ever dare think about doing that again.
That was a very gutsy block there by Tyler Gary, and again, he and Kyle Myers, nothing to lose. They were out trophy hunting, so it's bring home the prize or bring home the steering wheel, basically, for those two guys. Starting to see Farnes. Farnes is starting to make his way forward. I don't know if he's necessarily kind of letting Pfeffer do the work and then just following through, but remember, we saw the 88 kind of fall off a little bit when we went back green. Looks like now he's kind of let the truck come to him, and he's starting to make forward progress. Completes that pass on Santini for 7th.
Yeah, I think Farnes just kind of calmed down a little bit and tried to save the back tires just a little bit more here, where he's not trying to burn them getting through the pack, and he's taking advantage of everyone who has burned off their stuff. But I also do want to note he still has a little bit of right rear damage. I think he got it all repaired under that last pit stop, or as much as he could repaired under that last pit stop. Spoiler's still a little bit bent. Right rear is still a little bit crinkled. It shouldn't affect the car that much, but it's just a little bit noticeable damage where I think if you go in the corner, you'll feel it.
Well, you could tell Parker White was getting antsy, makes the move to the inside of Boyd Hogan for the lead here through 1 and 2. Not able to complete the pass just yet. It'll look to side draft here down the long back stretch into turn 3. Looks like Hogan may actually be just throwing up his hands as he moves way up out of the groove.
Not yet.
All right, you want to burn up your stuff? Go right on by.
Oh, yeah. I just kind of look back here. I'm seeing Tyler Gary. Gary is one of those guys who I've seen be extremely aggressive early on in this race. And obviously, I think he just really wants to get to the front of the field, really wants to win this race and just dominate.
Kind of interesting there, too, because mentioned that Tyler Gary was one of the drivers back near the end of the first stage that I was seeing make forward progress, had kind of been conservative in the early going and then started to make his charge late. Looks like he's kind of flipped the script and decided to be aggressive early, so we'll see if he pays the price for that the longer the run goes on.
Want a way too early hot take?
Go for it.
No one from the top 3 is inside or qualified in the top 3 is in the top 5 of this race.
Wow.
So maybe qualifying speed doesn't really matter. Oh, well, actually take that back. Boyd Hogan's in 4th. Never mind.
But still, that's 4
it's
of
noticeable.
the top 5. Well, you bring that up, too, and let's not forget, mention the fact this is the 2nd time that we've been to Texas here on the schedule. Pfeffer, who took the checkered flag here earlier on the season, qualified in 11th. Wasn't even in the top 10 in qualifying. So, yeah, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to qualify up at the front to be able to make your way to the front.
It's also worth noting, just because you ran well here in, let's say, earlier in the year, I mean, iRacing does go through a lot of build changes. Setups do change quite a bit. Cars get tweaked, etc., etc. Something that worked back in, let's say, May does not work here in November, or doesn't work here in September. You just got to keep that in mind where things change. Track temperatures are different. Track conditions are different. Heck, even the way the wind blows can be different, and that throws off the car just so much.
That's a good call. You know, there was something you brought up earlier that I want to touch on, because when I was noticing the 88 of Farnes working his way back up towards the top 5 right now in the 7th position. You talked about with when Brexit Weeks, when we were on board with him, how much it was kind of like dirt tracking it with the throttle control and everything through the corner. Bear in mind, Farnes dominated the Bristol Dirt Race a couple of weeks ago, so would like dirt experience like that come into play for his ability to be able to keep that truck underneath him here today?
It would and it wouldn't. What I mean where if everyone was really running the same setup and had the same idea here of, hey, I'm really going to be trying to drive this car off the right rear, that's great. But I noticed his setup seems to be driving it a little bit more aggressively off the right rear than, let's say, some of the other drivers in the field. Let's use Boyd Hogan as an example. Boyd, you can tell, is sliding through the corner, but not to that same extent where he seems like he's kind of really leaning on it. It's kind of using the balance where it's using more of the right rear than the right front, but still using both. Let's say everyone on the same setup, I really look for someone like him to kind of drive through and have an advantage, but with a lot of these setups being so different and kind of driver preferences being so different, I think he's the fastest on his setup. I don't think he's the fastest in this race.
Jonathan Delaney, who, in my opinion, has the best racer helmet in the field, that yellow smiley face, but he's down to the inside of Andrew Farnes. That would be for the 7th spot. Looks like he's going to, well, not quite clear here off of turn 4. Might have him clear by the time they get to turn 1. But Delaney's another driver that we've seen in the past at Mountain Half tracks that's been very good on the long run. Really haven't mentioned his name that much here tonight, and that might be a good thing. Might be kind of playing his cards close to the chest, not really letting the rest of the field know exactly what he's got until it really matters.
Yeah, and Jonathan being a member of Lockdown Racing, I think I saw a Twitter post a few weeks back, said that I think he was dropping out of Road to Pro this season, and kind of not, I don't think he was that high up in points, / I don't think he had that great of luck in some of these qualifying races. So obviously, I think he's just trying to gain a little bit of experience going forward, because even if you're not qualifying for Road to Pro, having that same experience, having the, I don't even want to call it life experience, but having the practice of that week in, week out of grind where, hey, some weeks are not your week and some weeks are your week. Having that just season experience helps so much trying to go for pro.
Couple drivers that fall under the category of not your week here tonight. Evan Longacre, unscheduled pit stop just a few laps ago. He is multiple laps down in the 16th position, still sitting on pit lane, getting that truck serviced. And Matt Forcappa actually just came to pit road a couple of laps ago and made the left-hand turn to the garage. Looks like right now he will be slated to finish 15th place here tonight. But Parker White looking to become, I believe, the third non-playoff driver to pick up a win here in the playoffs, pacing the field here with about 60 some odd laps left to go. Tyler Gary, Boyd Hogan, Kyle Myers, and Agno Phillip. That is your top 5 as green flag pit stops looming here at the Texas Motor Speedway. We're going to step aside for an FRN race break. You're not going to miss a thing, though, as we are going to take you side by side. Caution flag flies for the 3rd time here tonight. Dalton Collins, you saw it there with a wild slide through the infield grass. Looks like a solo truck incident, at least for the
What?
aftermath. We'll see if it was some contact that led to the incident.
So I think he may have gotten a little bit of help from David Santini, and that's the one problem. I don't really think this is all on David Santini, obviously with how loose it looks like Dalton Collins was getting. But obviously this is kind of the risk that you have when you build this setup like this, and you build it a little bit aggressively, kind of sliding the rear end, where, hey, you have drivers that may be a little bit better off on tires than you. Hey, you're sliding the back end and you slow down so much or they don't have time enough to check out. And unfortunately, just kind of running back you. Great save by Dalton Collins for not just kind of plowing into the fence or back into the field, but obviously not the intended result that you want. And I don't really know how much some of these guys who are on that alternative pit strategy are really enjoying this.
Yeah, going across that Legends course there in the infield. Not hitting anything though, so keeps that truck all in one piece. May get an angry tweet from the orange cone though, as he wiped him out there at pit road entry. We're going to take it on board here with David Santini in the 12, and both of these drivers, if I'm not mistaken, were on the same number of laps on their tires. There was not a difference. It would have maybe made a little bit more sense if Santini had fresher tires, was able to attack the entry to the corner a little bit stronger than the 95, but as we or make that the 85, but as stated, equal footing.
Ooh,
So not so
I
that maybe the
think
95 was already in trouble when he got
I
in the
think
entry to
we've
the
had
corner.
some takers for 2 tires.
Really?
I think I'm not positive, but I think we may have had some takers.
Follow up on that as yeah, there's the look. I don't know. Was the 95? Well, actually, it's the 95 on our screens. It's the 85 on our telemetry. But was he already out of shape maybe before Santini got to him?
Yeah, he was kind of sliding the back end. I think he just kind of slid up a little bit. Now, normally when it kind of slides up like that, you can save it. It's really just kind of lift off the throttle and the car should catch itself. But the problem is with Santini being so close behind him, when he kind of slipped up, he had nowhere to go. He had nowhere to kind of run off to and recover the car. So unfortunately, when he kind of got out of shape, everyone got out of shape.
Parker White came down pit road the leader, leaves pit road the leader, went back and checked. I didn't see any of our leaders go with a two-tire strategy. They all took 4, so...
Yes, I am blind.
He's trying to keep things exciting. Got a couple of drivers coming back down pit road here. Santini, Matt Knight, Wesley Jeanette. We haven't gotten an idea of what the fuel window really is for these guys, how far they can go, but that last run, I believe they went roughly about 32 laps, if I'm not mistaken, at least
Right
of the
now,
drivers that have come down with the fresh tires up to the
I
last
don't really
caution.
think fuel strategy is in the cards anymore. I mean, just with how close we are to the end, I think a lot of these drivers may be good to go or kind of slash close enough.
And I believe they have one more set, at least a lot of these front runners have one more set available. So if we get a caution, especially in the final 20 some odd laps of this race, be interesting to see who'd be willing to give up the track position to come down for the fresh rubber and who would feel that the track position most important, because we ended up seeing Christopher Pfeffer. He only was able to make his way up to, I think it was 6th position on fresher tires, as opposed to the rest of the top 5. Couldn't make any more forward progress.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things where, I mean, if I'm some guy like kind of Andrew Navarro, I think I would take my chances trying to even be on that outside lane and trying to fight my way down. Or, hey, just trying to see if I have a friend down there in the bottom line. Like, hey, remember when I helped you out here? Can you let me in? They kind of rather that than be back in the field with fresh tires. I mean, fresh tires are great and all for a long run, but I currently really want track position, try to save my tires so I can be there at the end rather than burning my tires up trying to drive through the field.
Lights out atop the pace truck, so we're going back green, just a little north of 50 laps to go. Bring
Two
everybody up to
takers on pit
speed.
road.
Waldrop, Santini, Knight, and Jeanette back down pit road again, so probably topping off the fuel tank once more.
But I wonder if we're not fully good.
I'm gonna be bringing up a question to you a little bit later about if there's any ways to save fuel in a track like Texas, but to bring everybody up to speed here on what's gone down, if you're just joining us, Andrew
Oh.
Navarro got the pole position, dominated the first stage, picked up that stage victory. He went off sequence with pit strategy, has not made his way up into the top 5 since then. He's going to be restarting back in the 10th position in the 42. Boyd Hogan took a turn out in front when we entered into the second stage. It has now been Parker White that has led the way for the last 20 or so laps. And we've had a couple of playoff contenders run into some issues here tonight as well. Christopher Hill, right now, still sitting on pit road, back in the 20th position. Entered the race late, ended up getting into the wall, had to repair that right side damage, has not returned to the track since. And Braxton DeWeese involved in an incident back during the start of the second stage. He's back in the garage area, credited with the 17th position. So a few of our playoff contenders having good nights. A couple of them going to be looking to rebound next week at Homestead Miami Speedway as Parker White brings us down with Tyler Gary and gets us back underway at Texas.
Got to just keep in mind, a lot of these drivers have that kind of goal in mind where they need to be there about the last 50, 40 laps, trying to make their way towards the front so they can get in a good position to fight for this win.
How about 3 wide? Andrew Navarro, the pole sitter. Jonathan Delaney in the middle. That is Farnes on the extreme outside line. Andrew Navarro feeling with everybody clumped up, it's time to go, because he was only able to make his way up to, I think it was 9th under that last green flag run.
Looks like they sorted out their 3-wide battle, just kind of going back almost 2 wide, almost single file. But it doesn't look like Farnes has that same speed he had earlier in the race.
Yeah, definitely seems to be one of those trucks that is a little bit sluggish at the initial start and then is able to find his way at least stationary in his position or work his way further up the longer the run goes on. How about this battle for the lead? It's going to be Gary to the inside of Parker White through 3 and 4. Further back, Navarro picks up another spot, getting around Agno Phillip.
Still kind of looking here. Woo! Kyle Myers kind of shoved it down to that bottom lane, kind of forcing Tyler Gary to try to clear yourself. Oh, and it's almost 3 wide.
Little sketch to make a late move like that, right? Especially going into turn 1 where it narrows up so much.
Well, Kyle Myers may have paid the price. Christopher Pfeffer got that nose underneath, and he is starting to make his charge.
Pfeffer and Navarro nose to tail there in those 2 Toyota Tundras, the 66 and the 42. Pfeffer, let's see if he goes to make a move to the inside of Gary here into turn 1. Gary going to chop down across the nose, and people might think that's a block, but what he's really doing is he's kind of like making the dirty air across the nose of the 66 get Pfeffer a little bit tight there in the corner. You're trying to manipulate the air that gets to the nose.
Absolutely. You're trying to make him lift. That's the idea here.
Pfeffer now going to look down on the bottom. Whoa! Gracious.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a, hey, I'm on the move. You need to move. We're going to kind of see some push come to shove here later in the race.
Yeah, we saw a lot of give and take in the early going, but now as we enter into the 50 laps to go vicinity, it is all take, no give. Again, for Pfeffer.
Look at that freight train.
Trying to double down here at Texas. And remember, Pfeffer is not in the playoffs. He's trophy hunting, so he's willing to take the risk. Navarro jump into the top side here through 1 and 2. Let's see if he can make something happen.
I think he was trying to arc up, get a little bit of, he's trying to get a little bit better run off the corner. It looked like it worked. Ooh.
Look at the blocks going on here. Agno Phillip on Gary, Pfeffer on Navarro. He may not be done with cautions yet. Jonathan Delaney now in the mix there. The 6 truck into the 4th position, making his way around Agno Phillip. Oh, wow. Andrew Navarro's truck looked all sorts of loose there in the entry to turn 1.
Just kind of watching entry here. It seems like there's a lot of disagreement. Everyone's just trying to find a lane here at the moment. Just so I can make a charge, but the bottom is definitely preferred. Look at Tyler Gary. Ended up getting on the bottom. Ooh, about 6 of Jonathan Delaney. Ended up just wiggling just a little bit back.
And the way that these guys are racing right now, how aggressively they're racing, does this give you the idea that they are good to make it on fuel? They're feeling now it's the battle for the checkered flag, or are they basically trying to position themselves as high as they possibly can for when they eventually have to make that green flag pit stop? Because the fuel window's still a question mark.
At this point, I don't know, but they're not racing, or at least they're not showing their hand and showing their concern.
If it is indeed a fuel strategy game, drivers that are not up here at the front that will have to keep an eye on the latter stages would include Chuck Waldrop, Wesley Jeanette, Matt Knight, and David Santini. They were all down pit road at the 1 to green as Pfeffer with some connection problems there, and that's the least of his concern because right now he's freight trained on that top side, back to 4th, might lose that to Farnes as well as Agno Phillip.
And again, that really hurts Pfeffer, being caught all the way up 2 lanes up. That middle lane is so tough to make a runoff, but that high lane is almost impossible.
Yeah, now trapped up on the top side 3 wide with Farnes put in the middle. Look at Kyle Myers trying to figure out which lane he wants to take. Back to double wide through 1 and 2. Farnes trying to clear around the top side of Agno Phillip, might succeed in doing so as further up Tyler Gary trying to be a menace in the rearview mirror of Andrew Navarro. Weaving back and forth there. Might have actually been trying to stop the ability of Delaney getting some draft on him down the back straightaway.
I think Delaney may have something here. He's kind of lying in wait, and he may just be trying to bide his time so he just doesn't make his move too early like Christopher Pfeffer did.
I don't believe that Jonathan Delaney was in the last race at Texas. I'll double check on that. Pretty certain that Andrew Navarro also was not in that race. Yeah, Delaney nor Andrew Navarro were in the first Texas race earlier on this season. Obviously, Gary in the 26 wasn't, as he's only made a handful of starts here this season, most of them in just the past month.
That kind of hole, that top 3 is kind of spread out just a little bit. Same thing with the top 4 and top 5. Everyone's kind of got their own little space. I wonder if they're trying to either save fuel or just kind of bide their time and wait.
Now, I have to remind everybody, too, we mentioned this back when Navarro picked up his victory at Darlington. It is not a win-and-you're-in system here for the playoffs. It is the top 4 of the playoff 7 that accumulate the most points by the time the checkered flag waves at Martinsville. So, Navarro, he can continue to pad his stats. He can become a 4-time winner. He can be a 2-time winner here in the playoffs. The most important thing for him, though, is he's looking to get max points. He got that 10 stage points back in the stage victory, and now trying to get the max points possible for winning this race. I'm not certain if he would end up having any bonus points for leading the most laps, as Boyd Hogan had quite a amount of time out in front, as well as the 20 of Parker White, so I'm not certain exactly where it stands between those 3 of who's led the most laps in regards to that bonus point.
But obviously, kind of having the race win would be a nice pad either way.
And Navarro was only 13 points ahead of the cut line coming into tonight's race. Drivers like Christopher Hill and Boyd Hogan, they had upwards of 20-plus points between themselves in that cut line. So could be very important here for Andrew Navarro. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, the reason he was down in that position, he had that win at Darlington, but then the following race did not take part at Kansas Speedway. So lost some points there in that regard.
That's what really hurt Boyd Hogan, Andrew Navarro, and Braxton DeWeese. They all missed Kansas.
Pfeffer in the 66 saw him get freight trained, and now he is trying to make his way back up here, further up inside the top 5. 5th place right now, trying to reel in the 88 of Farnes. As I'm trying to make out, was that Wesley Jeanette? Yes, it was. The 74 that was coming off of pit lane. That would obviously be an unscheduled stop for him. He's got that damage from being involved in the first caution for cause. Oh, gosh. Yeah, just had another caution right there as Pfeffer had his left sides in the grass and then made contact right front to left rear on the 88 truck.
Yeah, these trucks don't turn that well when we get off the racing surface. Obviously, that grass is unrelentless.
Picks up the 4th position, does Pfeffer. Navarro starting to open up some daylight between himself and this battle for 2nd. Gary and Delaney. As a matter of fact, that might turn into a 3-man fight because not only has Pfeffer gotten around the 88, he's starting to pull away and close in on 2nd and 3rd place.
Kind of looking around the track here. Everyone's kind of equally spread out, just kind of biding their time.
Looks like Evan Longacre, he was on pit road for a number of laps. Thought he might try and get that truck repaired enough to go out and pick up a couple of spots on other drivers that have gone to the garage area, but they have just recently pushed his truck back behind the wall, so he'll get credited for 16th. So that is officially 6 drivers that are out of tonight's event. For Kappa, Longacre, Braxton DeWeese, Richard Clement, Kohler, and Christopher Hill, as Boyd Hogan got around Parker White just moments ago. Back on the charge here of Fairnance, moved the 96 back up into the top 5. Right now,
Look
it's
at how
looking
much Andrew Navarro is driven away from second place.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, the 66 is getting held up right now. I think he's got a faster truck than some of the guys ahead of him. The 96 is obviously moving to the front. If these guys can get clear, it'd be interesting to see what the lap times would be between themselves and the 42, who's just loving the fact that he's leaving him in the dust.
Yeah, we'll easily say, but the Toyotas have been on point tonight. Really, the Fords and the Chevys have not really had anything from these Toyotas.
Another spot picked up there by Pfeffer, gets around Jonathan Delaney. Boyd Hogan, he'll look to make the pass on the 6 next. Gary, right now about a truck length and a half ahead of Christopher Pfeffer. Looked like the back end was really wanting to step out on him there on corner exit. Something you talked about here as well is the conditions that these drivers have to deal with, whether it be track temperature, whether it be the weather, as opposed to when we were at Texas last time. I've been noticing a lot of variation of sunlight hitting the track and then cloud cover hitting the racetrack. I mean, is there enough of a degree change track temp wise when that takes place for you to feel it, not only in the truck, but more importantly in the tires?
Now, obviously, it doesn't affect it immediately. It's not an instant change where the track just cools down. But over time, you can start to feel how much those 1, 2, 3 degrees really feel. Because I'm going to tell you, I like 77 degrees a lot better than I like 80 degrees tires. That's it. The track being such a cool temperature or such high a temperature will affect how it's driving. It'll make it feel on varying degrees of undrivable to very nice to drive.
Lastly, Jeanette, that gives you an idea there of fresh tires as opposed to old tires. Remember, he was on pit road for an unscheduled stop. Took on what I believe would have been his last set of tires, and he is making his way around Boyd Hogan. So that is a truck that is 2 laps down in 14th. That is passing a truck up inside the top 5 in the 4th position. So if we end up having it where these drivers cannot make it on fuel and have to come to pit road, and we're seeing just how important the tires are in regards to the ability to make passes and lay down really, really fast lap times, would you as a driver rather come to pit road early and take advantage of something like that, or would you come to pit road as late as possible? And here comes Navarro.
Navarro just kind of answered my question for me.
Yeah.
Realistically, I'd love to pit earlier because I'm looking at Andrew Navarro. He was really ringing out those fast laps. I'd rather pit earlier, take my fresh tires. So, hey, I can be more aggressive earlier in the run. And then as soon as I get into this run, I don't have to really hold back. I can keep running my normal pace.
This is going to be the money stop here. And now we'll see if it draws other drivers to pit lane. Tyler Gary in the 26 taking the race lead over. Yep, looks like, is that Delaney in the 6 coming down pit road? Also Kyle Myers and Agno Phillip.
This is really what kind of makes or breaks your entire strategy, is how quick you can get on and off. Now, I wouldn't be surprised maybe see some drivers try some 2-tire stops here. Now, it won't handle as well, but you're saying, oh, Andrew Navarro almost wrecks on the exit of pit road.
Able to hang on to it there as see if anybody else is going to come to pit lane this time out of turn 4. Yep, Pfeffer in the 66. One thing that we've seen during the course of these races is, wow, Dalton Collins sliding in there hard on the brakes. But one thing we've seen here during the course of the season is the asphalt pit road to concrete pit stalls have played havoc with these Truck Series drivers.
Car spinning up the pit exit. Middle of the track, Agno Phillip.
Caution's out, 4th time tonight. And that is going to be huge blow to drivers like Navarro, Kyle Myers, Jonathan Delaney, who are all going to be trapped a lap down. Lost that lap coming down to take on service. Now, they should be able to get the wave around, but that's all their track position lost with the timing of this yellow flag.
And we almost saw Andrew Navarro do the exact same thing that Agnell Phillip did. And really what happened is Phillip just got a little bit too confident on the gas, slid up the track, and unfortunately, when he slid up the track, he had the 7 of Chuck Waldrop right there. And realistically, that was just enough to bring out the caution.
Here's a look at it here through 1 and 2. See the back end of the truck stepping out. There's the oncoming traffic. Caution flies. And that was not what drivers like Navarro and Delaney and Myers wanted to see.
I think the real winner of this was Boyd Hogan.
Now, is that just a case of the fresh tires there? Cold, fresh tires?
Old, fresh tires, but also where you are on track. And obviously, you want to maximize time. It may just be a little bit of urgency of, hey, I've practiced my pit exit. This is how much I can do, but I really need to hound it. I really need to push it to my max to make sure I can catch up to this next guy in line. And unfortunately, just been a little bit too hard.
Pit road's open. Pretty much everybody that wasn't on pit road during the green flag pit stops there is on pit road now. Boyd Hogan, Parker White, Andrew Farnaz, Tyler Gary, David Santini, amongst others. If there was any question on these drivers and whether they could make it on fuel prior to that caution coming out, I think it's a dead giveaway now. These guys definitely will be able to make it because we're going to be getting the restart somewhere in the neighborhood of 23, 24 laps to go, roughly.
Absolutely. This is going to make it a lot tougher for these drivers. Trying to prep a strategy, you really got to make sure you're hitting your mark. Don't slide to your pit box, but obviously don't go into your pit box at 5 miles an hour. It's so difficult to kind of plan your strategy here. I'm still kind of holding out for a 2-tire stop, but I'm not holding my breath.
Now, Christopher Pfeffer and Dalton Collins both made it past the commitment line on pit road before that caution came out, so they were able to take service. They, along with Kyle Myers, Agnell Phillip, and it appears Wesley Jeanette, they are going to get to take the wave around. Mentioned about Andrew Navarro, the tough break for him, but I believe that Navarro was the first truck 1 lap down when the caution flew, so he ended up getting the free pass. He doesn't have to take the wave around.
The only bright side about that is that realistically it just gives you the ability to go pit again if you want to take fresher tires. But unfortunately, he just pit. He's still going to be lined up at the end of the field.
See him dropping back there. Waldrop going to go around him. He'll have to give up a spot to Andrew Farnaz as well. Looks like he would be 7th on this upcoming restart. Pfeffer, Collins, and Myers, after taking the wave around, they would line up in 8th, 9th, and 10th. Jonathan Delaney in the 6 is back on pit road, and a rather extended stay there for him. He's lost 2 laps here under this pacing period, so not certain what's going on with him. Looked like one of the drivers that could have been in the conversation for the victory here tonight. Matt Knight's also a lap down in the 33. Really haven't talked about him this evening. He's been quietly on the lead lap most of the night, but now he is being scored -1.
Yeah, not exactly sure why Jonathan Delaney is on pit road. Don't really see any damage on that car. Don't really notice anything that would really kind of throw it off.
But we saw on that last restart, with about 50 to go, just how aggressive these drivers got. Now we're setting ourselves up for about a 25 some odd lap shootout. Lights should go out top the pace car this time. We're going to turn the wick up, I think, on aggressiveness here.
Absolutely. You're going to see a lot of drivers kind of double down here. I don't really expect to see that much give and take. I definitely expect to see another caution of how some of these guys are racing.
There you see the wave around drivers getting themselves back on the lead lap. Tyler Gary's going to be the one to bring us back to green. Parker White will join him on the front row. Both of these drivers looking for their first career win in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series. Boyd Hogan and David Santini, they're going to line up in row 2. Chuck Waldrop, Andrew Farnaz, row 3. And Andrew Navarro, Pfeffer, Collins, and Myers, that's going to be the top 10. Want to remind everybody to tune in 2 weeks' time as we continue on the playoffs here for the MSRA Reaper Speedlab Truck Series. We're going to be at the Homestead Miami Speedway, the second to last race of the playoffs before we determine the final four. Battle it out for the championship in the season finale at Nashville Super Speedway. That's going to be October 19th, when we will be coming to you live on Wednesday night from the Homestead Miami Speedway. So be sure to join us for that, as we're moments away from finding out who's going to take the checkered flag here tonight at Texas. We've seen a little bit of everything here tonight, Matt. We've seen green flag pit stops almost completely cycle through. We've seen a lot of passing for position, and we've seen a lot of mind games in terms of tire conservation this evening.
Absolutely. I'm kind of seeing the mind games here. Looks like Tyler Gary just waited a little bit longer in that restart box to go. Really gave that inside line a chance, but also gave that outside line a chance where I didn't really see very much argument and kind of pushing and shoving to get into that bottom line.
Parker White, though, did not let him get away, kept glued to his back bumper through 1 and 2. If these guys start to get racy, no doubt Boyd Hogan's going to enter up into the vicinity as Farnaz makes the move on Santini, move him up to the 4th position. Farnaz looking for his second victory in as many races after getting his first career win a couple of weeks ago at Bristol Dirt.
Absolutely. I just see Parker White. He sees what his goal is here. Looks like Tyler Gary got a little bit loose, opened up the door for Parker White. Start clawing back.
And if you're the race leader in the 26, just how much are you looking out the windshield when you've got the 20 bearing down on you? Because obviously you want to know when he's making a move, but you don't want to miss your line, especially going into turn 1.
Honestly, the best thing Parker White can do right now, do exactly what he's doing. Stay glued onto the back bumper of that 26. Force him into a mistake. Force him to run harder than he wants to. Force him to burn up these tires. That's it. Make himself into a sitting duck.
Andrew Farnaz got a nice run on the top side through 1 and 2. He brings the fight to Boyd Hogan. Look at the run. Look at the grip he's able to get in that second lane through 3 and 4. Might get the straightaway speed necessary to pull off the pass here down the D-shaped front straightaway.
Like I said, he's been making that middle line work the entire race. Would not surprise me to see him try to make that work on forward. But I'm really curious about how long. I mean, we've got about 20 laps to go. He needs to make those tires and that grip last for 20 laps.
Andrew Navarro right behind this battle for 3rd place as we're on board with him. Going to follow the tire tracks of Boyd Hogan. It looks like he will follow Hogan through as they'll move to 3rd and 4th. Farnaz going to lose the momentum there out of turn 4 on that top side. Navarro, whoa, almost gets pinched down there into turn 1 by Boyd Hogan. But the pole sitter looking to go coast to coast here tonight at the Texas Motor Speedway. He clears for 3rd. Now he's got his sights set on the top 2.
If I was Parker White, I'd be playing the Jaws music, but I'd also start paying attention to that 42 behind me. I know he's fast. We have not been able to catch him. We need to start going. If you're going to make your move, I'd make your move now.
And bear in mind, I believe that there might be a couple of drivers, but I believe that for the most part, everybody's out of tires now. Everybody took on their last set, whether it was during that green flag pit stop cycle or when we had that caution come out. So if we are to have any late race restarts, you're going to be restarting on 10-plus old Goodyear tires. So that would make restarts very interesting in the closing stages.
I said, that's not exactly what you want as a caution coming out with 10 to go and met one guy and all the way in the back of the pack saying, I think I have an extra set.
Just an update on Jonathan Delaney. He still sits on pit road, so it looks like he's going to get credit for 14th place here tonight. No chance with the laps left for him to be able to pick up any more spots as things kind of spread out here amongst the top 4. Gary over White, over Navarro, over Farnaz. But in terms of lap times, it is the 42. He's the only driver in the top 5 that ran a sub-30 lap time, and he did it again this time by.
I'm watching the 26. 26 of Tyler Gary really sends it into the corner, but he really loses out on exit, while the 20 of Parker White really capitalizes on his exit to the corners, just gets a terrible entry. But Andrew Navarro is just something else. He manages to make it work both on the entry and exit. Ends up going right by the 20.
Blew his doors off and now going to set his sights on Tyler Gary. The one thing I'd be a little bit worried about here that I think if you're Navarro, you have to bear in mind, Tyler Gary, he's been throwing some very aggressive blocks on drivers It's been battling up here inside the top 5, so got to keep an eye if Navarro makes the move of how defensive this 26 is going to get.
I'm kind of looking here. Uh, if you're Tyler Gary, you kind of have to defend all that you can. Realistically, kind of looking at the odds, you got 15 laps. You got to keep one of the fastest cars in the track behind you. You're going to have to pull some blocks, but obviously make sure you've got really nothing to lose here. I mean, block to the best of your ability. Kind of force him to rethink some of his actions. He needs to go point racing.
Yeah, forced him right there to have to take a look to the top side as he ran just about as low as you possibly can down the front straightaway. Had his left sides right on that grass border. Navarro had no lane to be able to make a move. Again, trying to see the top side. Might be trying that arc you were talking about there through 3 and 4. Let's see what he does. He's going to jump to the top side, actually. Kind of fake out Tyler Gary down the front straightaway.
If you're Tyler Gary, you force him to go along the long way. Don't give him the bottom line. Force him to go around you on the top lane. Keep that bottom defended. Don't leave it open on exit.
Kind of reminds me of the Nick DeGroot strategy. Go down right there to that white line.
Oh, he let the bottom open.
Around. He did, and Navarro's going to be more than happy to stick his nose in there. Andrew Navarro's going to go back to the race lead out of turn 4, coming around to 13 to go.
Now, obviously, Tyler Gary's going to try and send it into the corner. Don't know how much luck he's going to have.
Ooh, man, he tried to make a move to the inside of Navarro, and he had Parker White to his left rear, so that checked him up.
I'm surprised he made it stick that well. They were 1 and 2. He needs to really get the run down the back straightaway and really try to dive into the inside. Try to hope that the 42 will lift.
Question is, can he stay in touch with Andrew Navarro? Because we saw when Navarro on the last run got to the race lead, got to that clean air, he was able to pull away. Gary,
I don't know if I go that top side.
If it doesn't work, you know that Parker White's going to capitalize on the inside.
I really think that move has to be made on the inside, unless you can really force him down to that bottom and force him to stay where he can't come up.
He pinned him down, got a nice exit there down turn 2. He's also got Parker White up there offering some draft potentially down the back straightaway.
And then Parker White kind of giving the 42 that little bit of help. I don't think that Tyler Gary is going to have that good run off the corner. He is really going to have to try and arc down, hoping to get right on the door of that 42.
He was still to the right rear quarter pail there through the front straightaway. Now loses the ground that he gained through 1 and 2. It's going to be a battle for second place now, it looks like, between Parker White and Tyler Gary. Then you got Boyd Hogan and Andrew Farnes sitting back there saying, hey, we're kind of boxed in, but we want to get up in this.
Well, Tyler Gary did the smart thing here. He's got right back down to the bottom line. He needs to defend that bottom for Parker White and really focus on getting to the back of that 42. I can tell he doesn't want to hit him. He doesn't want to rough him up, but like I said, if it's coming down to the last few laps, you kind of have to run that one through your mind of, hey, how much do I need to hit him to knock him up in the corner?
I'm noticing that Navarro is not pulling away nearly as quickly as he did on the last run, so that says to me that these drivers knew they couldn't make it on fuel. We saw Navarro come to pit road earlier than everybody else. He gassed it up. He was trying to open up as much of a gap as he could. The others might have been saving. Looks like at least right here, the top 5 all on equal footing in terms of speed.
Yeah, I'm noticing he's really making that top line work, kind of going door to door. I don't really think he can get that runoff, but really what this is doing, this is churning the tires of the 26. He's not going to have that great of grip, and he's not going to have that great of drive off.
These top 5 keep racing. I've been noticing that slowly Christopher Pfeffer's been reeling them in, so it might be a 6-pack battle here with less than 10 to go.
And it might be Boyd Hogan's race to lose now. Tyler Gary, I think he's burnt off at right front. I don't think he can really keep hanging with these guys, but Boyd Hogan's got something else. Looks like he's got a lot of speed.
I don't know what it's been this week, but so many times when I've talked to drivers in post-race interviews and discussed points with them, they've said, that's been the furthest thing from my mind. I wasn't thinking about points. I think that's the case right here. Obviously, for Navarro and Boyd Hogan, they'd like to big picture race to make sure that they're going to advance into that Final Four for the championship at Nashville Super Speedway, but right now, they see a checkered flag on the horizon. They both want it.
But they also have to keep in mind, but at a certain point, you have to stop racing like teammates, and hey, at this point, at some point, you will race for the championship, and it's all holds bars. You got to make sure you're better than the other guy. Oh, doors him! And they both wreck.
Oh, gosh.
And that's not the intended result.
Not at all.
So, if any F1's fans are in the chat, you are very familiar with what happened. Kind of think of Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton kind of racing each other. At that point, they both got the permission of saying, "Hey, let's race for this win," and unfortunately, they raced for the first place position.
Well, except for the fact that Navarro and Hogan are not teammates.
Oh, my apologies. I thought they were.
Nope. Take a look at this again off of turn 2. Boy, there wasn't much in it. I don't know if there was gap whack. It was obviously very, very close. They almost had it saved, too, for a brief moment there, but, oh gosh, just the... We talk about the gray area at the mile and a halfs. Car, or truck in this case, on the inside pushes up, truck on the outside, trying to pin them down. You run the risk that that truck on the bottom isn't going to be able to hold the lane, is going to push up just that maybe quarter groove more, and unfortunately both trucks pretty badly damaged there. Obviously going to take them out of the running for this victory, but
So here's my question: who do you really like here? Because I'm looking at Parker White. Parker White does have a little bit of left front damage, but he also has burning off his tires just a little bit. That I'm a little bit concerned. Tyler Gary, I'm convinced that he burnt off that right front, and he really has none of it left. So he's really got to focus on cooling down that tire. I'm really liking Andrew Farnaz, but I'm also liking Christopher Pepper in the background, kind of just lurking. Both kind of have semi-clean trucks. I mean, Andrew Farnaz has a little bit of damage on the right rear, but nothing too big. And Christopher Pepper has managed to keep it clean thus far. I'm liking those two to be our kind of battle for the win.
I think Parker White is the driver right now that would be in the catbird seat, and that'd be for two reasons. Number one, he's going to get to control the restart. He'll get to control where the acceleration point is, so he could catch the drivers behind him off guard. The second thing too is we've seen during the course of this race that truck at the front is able to kind of control the draft, and they're able to choose what line they want, force other drivers to do something different. We know that Parker White's got a fast truck, and I think the track position here, with only a handful of laps left to go when we eventually get the green, it could be a green-white checker, it could be a one-lap shootout, I think that plays into his advantage. The other driver's not going to have enough time to be able to mount a charge.
Yeah, so you're really going to have to kind of take this restart to your advantage and just hope for the best. Just try and, for lack of a better word or kind of better tact, just send it.
Now, I did just notice that there is some damage on the left front of Parker White's Toyota Tundra. You can kind of see a buckle there around that furthest right hood pin. I don't know if he made some contact maybe into the back of either Navarro or Hogan when they went around, but I don't know if that little ruffle there on the hood might affect him here in the final stages.
Yeah, so when they actually had the contact with Parker White to Andrew Navarro is actually what really kind of set Navarro around, and it damaged the left front of that Parker White truck. I think that's really going to be the Achilles heel in draft, trying to hold everyone off.
Well, Boyd Hogan, tough night for him as he spent a good portion of this race out in front, had a strong truck, was in the conversation for the win there just moments ago. He's back in the garage area, going to finish in the 13th position. So that's a couple of drivers there, Hogan and Hill, who came into this race with a pretty good gap between themselves and that cut line. And both of them not able to reach the conclusion of this one. So they're not going to lose a lot of points. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's not a huge loss. It's kind of not in the range of, hey, this is going to hurt us monumentally, obviously with Braxton Louise being out and everything, but it's not one of those advisable things, especially when you have to race for a championship in a few weeks. You don't kind of want to go in there of, hey, last time I raced this guy aggressively, I think he hit me and he kind of wrecked me, so I don't know if I'm going to race him with the same courtesy.
Lights out atop the pace truck. It will be a green-white checkered in regulation to settle this thing out. The most important factor out of all this is these drivers will be getting ready to restart on upwards to 18-lap race-used tires. We've seen on previous restarts, maybe 2 or 3 lap green flag runs on the tires, but nothing to this scale. And this is the restart that pretty much makes or breaks the race.
right now, I think the guy with the biggest upside has to be Andrew Farnes, being on the inside line behind the race leader. When the race leader goes, you'll be able to follow him right through. And hopefully, if he has a little bit of damage up front, he won't be as fast as he was earlier. So, as you just saved a little bit of tire, hopefully that 26 stays a little bit higher and can't duck down. Just don't let him down. You should be able just to sneak in there and steal one.
Well, folks, who you got your money on? It's going to be Parker White leading us to green, Tyler Gary in second. And it's going to be Farnes, Pfeffer, and Dalton Collins. That's the top 5. Kyle Myers right there. Wesley Jeanette, who was, I believe, 2 laps down at some point. He's now up in 7. Santini, Phillip, and Waldrop. That is your top 10 as the green flag set to fly one more time here. Can they make it back to the white? Saw a little bit of wheel spin there, but looks like everybody's good to go here for turn 1.
Yeah, and realistically, kind of Andrew Farnes really squandered the chance on that restart, allowing the 26 to be able to duck down below. But Christopher Pfeffer, he is one of the ones who got hurt most in this restart. He can't get down.
Nose to tail down the back straightaway. Look how low Parker White is running, not allowing a nose to the inside, courtesy of Tyler Gary. Gary going to try and arc it here through 3 and 4. He'll try down the front straightaways. They are going to, looks like, make it back to the white. All 3 of these drivers here, the 20, the 26, and the 88, looking for their first career win, for the 88 to be for his second straight victory.
I just see Andrew just kind of lurking back there, but I don't think he has enough time.
I think Andrew might be possibly looking to maybe get
On
second
the wall!
place. Oh, Pfeffer, hard hit to the outside wall in the back straightaway, but we still race back to the start-finish line.
Oh, I think he's going to have to move him if he wants it.
Is he going to use the chrome horn here down the front straightaway? All over the back bumper, gets loose, but they save it as Parker White takes the checkered flag tonight at Texas, his first career win in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series.
I said it was a great race, just kind of hanging on there at the end. Just trying to figure out what was the incident on the back straightaway of Christopher Pfeffer.
Yeah, saw him get hooked and hit the outside wall a ton. Andrew Navarro returned back to the track with the field there when they took the green, and he picked up a spot with Pfeffer's misfortune there. So,
Seth, I want your take on this.
All right, we'll go back and look in just a minute here as celebration on the front straightaway for Parker White. I have to look back. I believe this is Parker's first start. It might be his second. I'll double check on that fact. But it is definitely his first career win in the series, as we'll go back and take a look at that incident. Race officially will be ending under caution, with this taking place on the final lap of the event, but it allowed drivers to still be able to race back to the start-finish line, and... Huh.
Yeah.
Well.
So I'm noticing, obviously, Christopher Pfeffer trying to get all you can on the last lap. Got into the back of the 85, just a little bit out of turn 2. I guess maybe I would say a little bit, got into him a lot. Kind of assisted him towards the wall. And then, after that, I'm not that convinced that keeping that car off the wall was all he was trying to do. But that is up for the race officials to find out.
Yeah, there's only 2 people that
I
really know what went down there.
That's it. I could tell you what I would have done if I was in that situation, but
Go on board. Let's go on board here with Dalton Collins. Let's watch the wheel motion. See if that'll give us a bit of an idea. There you see him trying to save it. Yeah, well, you know what? You folks at home, you be the judge.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. If I saw the guy who nicely assisted me into the outside wall passing by me as I was slowing down, I would absolutely love to thank him for his kind gesture and make sure he was right there with me so we both get the credit. So well, I don't know. But also, I don't know if you caught the incident that happened in turn 3 after the
I was just gonna go and show that, because apparently Wesley Jeanette, I guess he got a front row seat of what happened, and he had an opinion on what went down or something.
Well, I don't know if Wesley really agreed with what was going on there. There's a lot of contact at the end there.
That is a lot of contact exchange between those two.
I don't know about that one. I think race control is going to have a fun field day.
So that's the fireworks that end off the night here at Texas. Parker White with the victory, first of his career in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series, as we take a look at your full finishing results from tonight's event. Tyler Gary there in second. Great follow-up run there for last time out's winner Andrew Fairnez in third. Kyle Myers and Agnew Phillip going to bring home the rest of the top five. Santini sixth. Matt Knight, who by the way got the lucky dog under the last caution, was able to battle back for seventh. Chuck Waltrip's going to bring it home in eighth, so that's a great run there for the seven. One of four playoff contenders in the field here tonight. He's the highest finishing of those playoff drivers. Wesley Jeanette and Dalton Collins, they're going to complete the top 10 as we take a look at the rest of the finisher results. And of course, the names that jump out there. Navarro managed to finish the race on the lead lap in 11th. Hogan in 13th. And Christopher Hill, Braxton DeWeese, both did not make it to the conclusion of the race. DeWeese in 17th, Hill in 20th. So that's a 7th place finish for Waldrop, a 17th place finish for Braxton DeWeese. Neither driver got stage points. So DeWeese has got quite a hole to dig himself out of at Homestead in 2 weeks, and then the final elimination race at Martinsville. Well, let's see if we can talk with our podium finishers here tonight. For all three of them, I believe combined, they coming in tonight had only made one start prior, and that was Andrew Farnez in the 88. And we're going to see if we can dial him up. Hey, Andrew, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what a race here tonight we saw at Texas. A lot of varying strategy coming into play in terms of when those cautions fell. We saw the possibility of maybe there being a green flag pit stop to settle this thing out, but then those last couple of yellow flags kind of shuffling that up. But looked like you guys had your handful here tonight with those trucks.
Yeah, Texas is an interesting track. You really got to fight the car through 1 and 2, and you're kind of balancing what it's going to do through 3 and 4. So we ourselves were very, very loose through 3 and 4. So it was fun to fight the thing all night, and really took big swings at it to try to learn something for tomorrow. And yeah, it was a fun time out here.
We saw a couple of drivers there, especially towards the end of the race, try and get that second groove in, try and find some momentum up there. You seem to be one of the drivers through the entirety of this race that kept testing the waters up there. Were you able to find anything, or was there just not enough momentum?
Early in the run, early in the race, it was working for me, but I think that killed the tires. So I mean, we were making some moves through 1 and 2. 3 and 4, I didn't really feel like there was anything out there, but definitely through 1 and 2 early in the race, it did work. But I think it was eating tires, and we kind of saw that as we started falling back in that run.
We saw you get your first career win a couple of weeks ago at Bristol Dirt in the conversation for the win here tonight. If there's contact off turn 4 between the 20 and the 26, did you have a contingency plan in place to be able to get by both of them and go back to back in victory lane?
Yeah, I mean, just try to avoid them, dodge them, and get to the line. But these guys are talented. They're not going to probably wreck each other, spin each other out, without waiting for themselves. So, just avoid them if that did happen. But that, we were coming off turn 4. I really didn't expect anything dumb like that to happen.
Well, great showing for you here tonight, Andrew. Congratulations on the podium finish. No driver here on our podium started inside of the top 5, so it certainly looked like track position wasn't necessarily important if you had a strong truck to get up there to the front. Before we let you go, we're going to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Big thanks to you guys with broadcast, all the fans for watching. I hope we put on a good show. Everybody at Lowline, Elliott Sadler, especially Brandon and Kohler and Paul, Matt, just everybody over there. I know I'm forgetting all the names, but thank you so much for all the help this year and everything. So, and all the drivers in this league. It was a lot of fun to race, and hope to see you in the next one.
Following up his victory last time out at Bristol Dirt, third place here tonight at Texas for Andrew Farnaz. Congratulations on the great run. Hopefully we see you for the final few races here down the road, Homestead, in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks so much, guys.
And let's see if we can dial up the driver that brings it home in second place here tonight, Tyler Gary.
Oh.
Hey, Tyler, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, how we doing?
Man, I'll tell you what, looked like you were in a really good spot there in the closing stages to be able to snag this victory. 20 truck throwing a lot of blocks on you, almost got to his inside a time or two. I mean, what little more did you need to be able to at least get to his inside and maybe make this a drag race back to the checkered flag?
I don't know. I probably needed to not mess up 1 and 2 like how I did. I really missed the bottom down there, and it kind of hurt my center off and my run down the backstretch into 3. If I hit it a little bit better, I maybe could have gotten to his inside and been closer there into turn 3, try to drive his onside or something like that.
We were observing in the early going drivers that were able to make forward progress the longer the run went on, feeling that this was going to be a race of tire conservation and the long runs. And you were one of the drivers that jumped to the forefront of our attention, started 14th, and we saw you make your way up into the top 5 by the time we got to the end of that first stage. What were you able to find that allowed you to be able to preserve those tires, keep that speed consistently to make that forward progress?
It's just knowing what moves to make and how to carry your runs on and try to pass the next guy and go on from there. Honestly, I didn't feel like I took care of my tires all too great in the first run, but I haven't done a whole lot of pack testing stuff. I'm slowly figuring it out still.
Yeah, we know you drivers had a limited number of tires available on pit road. For the most part, when those cautions fell, you were able to come down, take on a set, and restart on fairly fresh Goodyears. I think prior to this last restart, the oldest tires that we saw anybody restart on was about 3 to 4 laps. You guys had to take this final restart with almost 20 laps run on those tires. How difficult was it getting up through the gears? How much wheel spin did you guys experience?
The wheel spin wasn't too bad, but the lack of front grip kind of messed with me. I think that's why I missed 1 and 2 so bad on the white flag lap, and it's just I like honestly I completely forgot I had older tires and just kind of drove it in like they were new. So it definitely messed with me a little bit.
Well, Tyler, a great run for you here tonight. Almost picked up that elusive checkered flag for your first career win, but a tremendous showing. Started 14th, bring it home in P2 here tonight. Congratulations on the great performance. So before we let you go, we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, just like to thank SRD Setups, North Forest Racing, and everyone who's working on the setups and helping me with Road Pro and tonight and all through the year. They've taught me a lot, honestly, and I've improved a lot this year. And so, shout out to all of them.
Tyler Gary brings the number 26 home in the second position here tonight at the Texas Motor Speedway. Once again, congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you.
And let's see if we can go down to Victory Lane and talk with another first-time winner here in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series. This evening, it's Parker White. Hey Parker, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
And I'll tell you what, we were adrenaline high up here in the broadcast booth watching that final restart, that green-white checkered between you, the 26, the 88, all nose to tail there, coming through 3 and 4. How much were you looking in the rearview mirror? How much were you looking out the windshield? Because we knew you had a fast truck, but we also knew that you had to play a lot of defense.
Yeah, I'd say probably about 90% of that last command checker was spent looking through the mirror. I got a little bit of nose damage on that wreck between Andrew and Boyd, so I thought it was going to be down on straightaway speed. So my goal was just to run as low as I can and just try to defend. So that's what I did. I told Gary on that restart that I was going to run the bottom, mainly just to make sure that nobody got underneath him also. So that's what I did, and I realized my truck wasn't as hurt as I thought. So I made sure I got a good run through turn 1, and I actually forgot we were on old tires. So I got a little tight, but Gary sent it in a bit harder behind me, and he got even tighter. So I just had to make no mistakes, but he got pretty close to 3 and 4 just because of the draft. But um, yeah, I was, like I said, it was basically just mirror driving like Talladega or Daytona.
Talk about that moment off of turn 2 you were just describing there between the 42 and the 96 getting together. You're running in the third position, waiting to see which line's going to move. All of a sudden, the caution's out, and you're leading this race with only a handful of laps left. I mean, how close were you to getting involved in that wreck and getting more damage? We saw the damage you had there to the left front, but I mean, just how close was it to your end or your night coming to an end right then?
I think if I would have been behind Andrew instead of Boyd there, I definitely would have gotten involved because I just barely got hit by Andrew because he net coded Boyd pretty good. And I think my contact with Andrew is also net code. But luckily, like I said, it looked probably like not necessarily raced any damage, but like I thought I was gonna be down on straightaway speed, just the way it looked inside the truck. But I guess the damage that I saw inside the truck was the only damage I had because my truck looked fine on the replay. So yeah, like I said, if I was behind Andrew, I probably would have been involved with them.
I asked this of Tyler just moments ago as well. You guys had to take this final green-white checkered with about nearly 20 laps on your tires, the most that you drivers had had on tires for restarts the entirety of the evening. As the race leader, just how much mental pressure were you putting on yourself to make sure you didn't spin those tires because there was a checkered flag potentially on the line?
I wasn't really worried about that necessarily. With it being the truck, we ran a bunch of pace laps and tires were able to cool down. So I was just gonna mash the throttle down, and if it spun, I'd just lift off the throttle a bit. But luckily, we didn't have much tire spin. If we would have went maybe half a fuel run and we didn't have tires, then yeah, we would have had some pretty good tire spin. Uh, but yeah, like I said, I just kind of mashed it and hoped for the best.
A great run for you here tonight. Started back in the 8th position. You pick up the checkered flag for your first career win in the Reaper Speedlab Truck Series. Congratulations on that. I know you want to get back to celebrating, but before we let you do that, we're going to hand the mic over to you and let you do some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Thank you. I just gotta thank you guys for doing the broadcast at FRN. I have to thank my team, North Source Racing, SRD Setups, and also have to thank Reaper Speed Lab, the sponsor of the series.
Well, Parker White gets his first checkered flag here tonight at the Texas Motor Speedway. They say everything's bigger in Texas. The celebration's probably going to be bigger here tonight as well. Congratulations on a job well done, Parker.
All right, thank you.
So as Parker White continues his celebration of his first career victory here in the Reaper Speed Lab Truck Series, that's going to bring our coverage to a close here tonight for FRN. Crazy race here this evening. We saw a little bit of everything. We saw the long green flag runs. We saw some short spurts at the end. We saw potentially green flag pit stops. Saw a lot of strategy under green and under caution in terms of tires and fuel. Of course, at the end, it came down to that final restart. We also saw the ins and outs of playoff drivers having some decent runs and a lot of them hitting some trouble. Navarre and Hogan with that late race wreck. Braxton DeWeese and Christopher Hill back in the garage area. The only driver that appeared to escape Texas unscathed was Chuck Waldrop. So it'll be interesting to see what the playoff points look like heading into our next race, which will be in 2 weeks' time on October the 19th at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Hope you guys will join us for that. The green flag will fly at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate you joining us here tonight for our coverage of this Texas race. Once again, congratulations to Parker White on his first career victory. I want to thank Matthew Rodriguez for joining me in the booth, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time at the Homestead Miami Speedway as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.